Have you ever heard a riddle so confusing it physically hurts to think about? Like your brain is doing heavy mental deadlifts, only to drop the weight the second the logic stops making sense. The ancient Greeks had a word for these mental glitches: paradox. It translates literally as distinct from our opinion. It's that confusing gap between what we assume should happen and what is actually true. Consider this your orientation. You are now a junior detective in a special agency dedicated to investigating these impossible crimes of logic. Back in 1961, a logician named Willard Van Orman Quine created our standard operating procedure. He took all these brain breakers and organized them into 3 specific case files: the fake-out, the unbelievable truth, and the logic loop. Once you know how to sort a paradox into one of these 3 folders, they stop being frustrating tricks. They become solvable, scientific mysteries. Let's open our first file. We begin with a simple race. Our action hero gives a tiny, slow-moving turtle a massive head start. 2.5 millennia ago, a Greek philosopher named Zeno of Elea proposed that the fastest runner could never overtake that crawling tortoise. Let's look at this racetrack diagram to see Zeno's logic. By the time the runner reaches the 100-meter mark where the tortoise started, the tortoise has moved another meter. When the runner covers that new meter, the tortoise has moved forward again. Because you can infinitely divide the remaining distance between them, the gap gets smaller and smaller, but the tortoise is technically always a step ahead. We know the runner wins in real life. This is what we call the fake-out. It's a paradox that packs a surprise, but it's actually a false alarm based on a flaw in how we see the math. Zeno didn't have the tools to solve this. It took the invention of calculus to uncover the missing evidence, the fact that you can have an infinite list of numbers that adds up to a finite total. Think of slicing a pizza. You can cut it into a half, a quarter, an eighth, and keep slicing forever. Just as 1,000,000 tiny pizza slices only make one whole pizza, all those shrinking distances only take a limited amount of time to cross. When you add up those infinite tiny moments, they just equal a few finite seconds on a clock. Once those few seconds pass, the math finally aligns with reality. The runner reaches that finite point and finally catches the turtle, proving the original logic was a mistake. Now imagine you are a contestant on a game show. The host presents you with 3 closed doors. You need to pick one. Behind one door is a grand cash prize. Behind the other 2, joke prizes. You make your choice. Before your door is opened, the host reveals a losing prize behind one of the 2 doors you didn't pick. Then he offers you a choice. Do you want to keep your original door or switch to the final unopened door? Your brain likely tells you that there are 2 doors left, so your odds of winning are exactly 50-50. It feels like switching wouldn't matter. That instinct is common, but it's the reason we call this the unbelievable truth. This scenario feels completely wrong to our brains, but it is mathematically proven to be true. When you made your first pick, you had a 1 in 3 chance of being right. That means there was a 2 in 3, or 66% chance, that the money was behind the other 2 doors. The host knows where the money is, and he won't show it to you early. When he opens a losing door, your original 1 in 3 chance doesn't change. It just concentrates the probability into the only remaining door you didn't pick. Switching is like choosing both of the other doors at once. It doubles your odds of walking away with the cash. This brings us to our final case file, the logic loop. Consider this simple sentence: I am lying. If that statement is true, then the speaker is lying. But if they are lying, then the statement they just made must be the truth. You can follow that circle forever. This is a genuine crisis in thought, where the scenario breaks our current rules of logic. It can't be proven true, and it can't be proven false. But these aren't permanent dead ends. Just as the racing tortoise had to wait for calculus, a logic loop is just a mystery waiting for us to invent the right tools to understand it. We are actually investigating a real-world logic loop right now, the faint young sun paradox. Evidence from the ground shows that billions of years ago, early Earth was covered in vast liquid oceans and life. But evidence from the stars says the sun was much dimmer back then, too cold to keep the Earth from being a giant ball of ice. We know the oceans were liquid, but our data says the sun was too cold to melt ice. We currently don't understand how both of those things can be true at once. A paradox exists to show us the gaps in our knowledge. It challenges us to look closer and push our boundaries until we find the piece of the puzzle we're missing.